the person at the family council who expressed interest in the man being dispatched from the Metropolitan Police, Rika Furude. And then the person who was waiting for me the whole time in the bus shelter, Rika Furude. It was an unthinkable image. No, it was a delusion. When we met at the bus shelter, did Rika-chan already know my true identity? Did she know that I was a Kasuka, dispatched to the Metropolitan Police Department and come to meet me? Then, including Mayor Kimiyoshi, every villager that I met, everybody knew, but just pretended not to, because Oryu had given instructions not to interfere. Thinking about it logically, it didn't seem possible. I met quite a number of people. If there's people that are good at acting, then there's people who are bad at hiding things. If there was that many people, then there should have been somebody among them who knew I was from public safety and couldn't hide their hostility. However, I didn't feel any presence like that. But then, even still, why did Oryu tell them to leave me alone? Was it because if they were careless about it, it would only raise more suspicion? Or was it because they believed a rookie like me wouldn't be able to find anything? A Kasuka is a coward. I recalled that strange voice, which could only make me believe that Rika-chan had been possessed. That unknown entity, no matter how you looked at it, knew my true identity from the get-go. And then, how did it warn me again? That's right, it warned me to hurry up and go back to Tokyo, instead of the realistic worry that the Onikafushi Defense Alliance had discovered my identity. The absurd worry brought on by the unknown girl stuck with me more. What exactly was that girl? What was thing I would eventually regret? That mysterious girl, Rika Furude. Let's stop this. Everything I was thinking of right now was merely conjecture. Tomorrow, first thing in the morning, I'll report everything I heard right now to HQ and await further orders. There was no mistaking that the possibility the Onikafushi Defense Alliance were related to the case was there, and the fact that my cover was blown meant I was in a precarious position. But as everybody at headquarters was already extremely busy, they might not be able to spare the support. Is that everything? If you want, I can drop you off wherever you like. Ah, sorry. In that case, the station where we originally met, please. A rural road where even a streetlight was rare. I couldn't see anything. I wasn't aware of anything but the asphalt that was lit up by the headlights. Outside of that light, was it simply more darkness? Or was there something lurking there, waiting to strike? I had to think. I drew the short straw here. I wanted to go back to Tokyo. For some reason, the voice of the girl warning me to go back to Tokyo still lingered in my head. Mahjong prodigy, showed off your skills. The investigation runs aground. Yeah. Yesterday when we met at the restaurant in Ginza, that topic popped up. That's overstepping their boundaries, isn't it? They're meddling too much with public safety. If they keep doing that, they're going to set a bad precedent. It seems that Minister Unagai is openly uncomfortable at the way public safety is doing things. The Vice Minister is probably going to say something to that effect during Monday's debate session. But what can you do? We can only have the director address the Vice Minister. That's why we pay him the big bucks. Well, if it comes to that, they're going to ask him for proof that the minister is being threatened. Sometimes, I don't know what side he's on. If he's not on ours, then what? Well, he's probably getting some pressure from the minister. We'll probably just have to proceed with the investigation while he sweats it out in the Vice Minister's office and buys us some time. He might get so wrung out to dry that all that'll be left are dregs, though. So, how's the investigation going? All the juicy leads I was pinning my hopes on turned out to be duds. Honestly, I'm at a loss. There are reports that the Hinamizawa Dam project has been showing up a lot lately in the minister's press releases. So what about that? Well, you say showing up, but it's really more of a very slight feeling that something's strange. He just happened to mention it during his speech at the prefectural forum, so it just might have been something that he was mentioning because it was relevant at the time. If I remember correctly, a local organization there was protesting quite violently, no? The Onagafushi Defense Alliance, I think Akasaka-kun was investigating that. I think those guys could possibly be behind what's happening now, even if we can't say there's anything overtly suspicious about them. It might not be prudent to remove them from the picture. Akasaka-kun reported in passing that he couldn't deny that possibility. Then, isn't there merit in investigating them? We're going through everything with a fine-tooth comb, so if they're one of the suspicious groups there left, we'll eventually have to. Well, they're not the only group we should investigate, right? If we're just talking about groups that are as suspicious as Onagafushi, there's quite a few of them. We don't have the men, the time, or the money for it all. I'll try asking for more details from Akasaka-kun. I feel like we should pay some extra attention to this defense alliance. He's reported that he's established a rapport with the villagers. It also seems that he's collaborating with the local police. Keep your contact with Akasaka-kun on the down low. Also, if there's anything in his info that merits investigation, it's possible we can send reinforcements. Got it. Sorry, Chief. Kataoka. There's a phone call from the director. Should I transfer it over here? No, it's okay. I'll head over there. Yes, hello? What's in the box? Do you believe that there are choices in life? There are many people who lament the following. If there only existed points in life where there were clear choices to make, we would be able to scrutinize those carefully and make decisions that would lead us to a better future. Every time I hear people lament as such, I cast it off as a rather trivial worry. Even if you were given a clear choice, it wouldn't be meaningful at all, and there wouldn't be any such path to a better future. Is this hard to understand? Then let's pretend that in front of you there are two strange boxes. In other words, you have two clear choices. Do you open the red box or the blue box? A lot of things would be uncertain even with that choice, wouldn't they? If you don't have the option of opening neither, then your choice boils down to the natural impulse of opening the box that holds the better result for you. Then, after examining the shape and features of each and pondering a great many things, you have to pick either the red or the blue. If this was you, which box would you open, red or blue? If you were to go by their traditional meanings, then red would be a dangerous, threatening color. However, that doesn't automatically mean that it would be calm and relaxing inside the blue box either. In fact, it might even be that the colors are a trap, make you wary of the red box, and you have opened the blue, a trap. Could it be the contents of the box aren't a reward, but rather a penalty? See? Now you're at a loss. You're so conflicted over the choice between red and blue that you've started wishing there was an option to open neither and just leave. But there isn't. You have to open either the red box or the blue box. Oh, I forgot to say this, but if you choose one box, the other will disappear, so you'll never know the contents of the box you don't open. I'll just put that rule at the end there for you. Now, why don't you choose the red box or the blue box? It's alright, you won't lose anything by picking either one. Come on now. Have you thought about it? In the end, you chose this color, didn't you? As soon as you chose, the other box disappeared. So you can give up on the contents of that one, okay? That's the rule. Now open up the box you chose. Inside the box there was a piece of caramel. Or caramel. I know you're a little disappointed. Well, that's only natural. No matter how you look at it, it looks like you drew the dud. That the correct box might have had a bar of chocolate in it, for all you know. No, in fact, something incredible like a pair of tickets to Hawaii might have been in there. But even if you wanted to verify that, the other box has already disappeared. There's no way you can check now. But if you think about it from an optimistic point of view, just maybe the other box is empty, and this box is the winner. And being satisfied, or perhaps not, with such a cheap prize, you pop it in your mouth and start chewing happily. So, what do you think in the end? If you were given a second chance, would you try the open other box? But unfortunately, the chance to choose between red box or blue box has come and gone, never to be seen again. The chance to change your selection will never come. Don't your parents often say every choice you make in life only happens once? So choose carefully. See? Choices aren't that great either. Aren't you a little disillusioned now? Ah. The glint in the demon's eyes. Yes. So the wake will be from 6 p.m. tomorrow, and the service will be the day after from noon until 1. The venue will be Okonomiya Ceremony Hall. I see. It's Deputy Mayor Ikazawa's grandson's funeral we're talking about. We have to pay our respects. Mion, I'll have you go in my stead. Okay, got it. Should I wear mourning clothes? How much should I bring for the funeral offering? You can go in your school uniform. Make sure you button it up properly. For the money, 100,000 yen. They've done a lot for us. Mion quietly whistled in awe at the exorbitant amount of money her grandmother was offering. Ikazawa-san's been a prudent person ever since his days as head of the Okanomiya Municipal Office. Even if those government types paid me a visit, they'd always stay outside. But whenever I offered Ikazawa-san a cup of tea, he'd come inside and carefully listen to what I had to say. He always lent a proper ear to what people had to say. Others should learn from a person like him. The two guests made a show of nodding, making it clear they were paying attention to Oryu reminisced. The sight of them trying not to get on Oryu's bad side was humorous enough to elicit laughter from Mion occasionally. How young was Deputy Mayor Ikazawa's grandson when he died? 11 years old, apparently. Oryu closed her eyes and shook her head lightly, lamenting the loss of such a young life. If I recall correctly, he said he only had one grandchild. How sad. There's nothing worse for a parent than outliving their offspring. Aha, you're really nice to other people, Granny. If Shion and I died, would you be this sad? Don't be stupid. Saying something like that is bad luck. Having got the reaction she expected, Mion cackled. The two guests, unsure if they were supposed to laugh along, instead forced awkward smiles. Well, take our leave for today, then. We'll be by tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock to pick you up. Until then, please excuse us. After bowing their heads repeatedly, the guests left by the front door. Mion saw them off, waving her little hand goodbye. They're gone. It must be rough for them to pay you a courtesy visit, Granny. It would have been fine if they just broke the news over the phone. Heh. Well, it was true that Oryu Sunazaki was a central person for both her relatives and the residents of Hinozella village as a whole. As a voting bloc, they numbered in the several thousands. It wasn't hard to imagine the mayor would try to pander to her. Unlike Mion, however, Oryu was looking up longingly at the sky from the veranda. What's the matter? Are you going senile? Ha ha. I just thought that no matter whose grandchild it was, I'd feel sorry for them. Saying that, she let out a deep sigh. Mion was let down, as normally her grandmother would have scolded her for her attitude. Mion, you know, that minister's grandson. How long has it been since he was abducted? 4 days, maybe? Or you let out another deep sigh. He may be the grandchild of our bitter enemy, but I still feel sorry for him. Really. That's enough of a warning. We should bring this to an end soon. The playful expression drained from Mion's face, leaving behind a stern one, and then, as if to ascertain Oryu's will, looked into her eyes. Oryu, expressing her intention with only those eyes, looked back into Mion's. I want some tea. Could you call for some? Some of that chocolate, too. Mion gave a small nod, then turned around. Shimiko-san, are you there? Grandma wants some tea. Could you prepare some? From far away a voice responded in the affirmative. Mion, after confirming she'd been heard, picked up the phone and began dialing. Ah, hello? This is Mion. Yeah. Is my father there? I had a restless night's sleep. I did nothing but turn over repeatedly during a night that seemed like it lasted for eternity. Even then, I eventually fell asleep at some point, not realizing how high in the sky the sun had risen. I shook off the urge to go back to sleep. It was then that I noticed the phone was ringing. The time was almost 10:30 in the morning. It was clearly too late for a wake-up call. Akasaka-san? Good morning. It's Oishi. Waking up to the sound of Oishi's voice was little too much of a shock. My delicate ears were ringing, but thanks to that shock, I was suddenly wide awake. Hello? Good morning. Could it be you just woke up? Even though you are on assignment, it's still not good to be asleep during regular business hours. You're absolutely right. I'll be more careful in the future. I have another tidbit that might wake you up even more. There was something interesting mixed in with the last lost and found at the Himatsubushi police box. Lost and found. Let's leave the details for when you get here. You think you'll be able to make it before noon? No, I'll be there right away. Oishi already knew that my mission was here. Since Oishi said it was something that would wake me up, it was hard to believe that it would be irrelevant to me. Honestly speaking, judging by the information by Sato-san yesterday, knowing that my cover was already blown, I couldn't wander to and from Hinazawa carelessly. In other words, my investigation was at an impasse. If there was some information there that could put me back on the trail, that would be nothing less than a stroke of good fortune. After vigorously washing my face, I pulled on my jacket and hailed a taxi, heading towards the Yokonomiya police station. Oh, you're here. The genius mahjong player has arrived. My apologies for being late. So exactly what popped up? With absolutely no intention of reminiscing about last night's mahjong game, I pressed him to get to the point. Oishi, anticipating that I would act that way, cut to the chase without any resistance. Like I said earlier, something arrived from the Hinazawa police boxes lost and found this morning. Lost items that were turned over to the police box were sent to Okonomiya Station after paperwork was filled out. Oishi pulled out a plastic bag from the drawer and laid its labeled contents on the desk. Is that a wallet? Indeed. There was small change inside, but no bills. We thought that a pickpocket threw it away after pulling out the contents. At first, I didn't understand how this wallet, so far removed from Tokyo, could possibly be related to the kidnapping. If it had drawn Oishi's attention, it would have been something dramatic, like if the wallet belonged to the missing grandchild. That would be absurd. Like something that convenient would happen. If that was it, then there were probably initials written on the wallet. Like the initials of Toshiki Unogai, the minister's grandson, T.I. Thinking like that at this point, I didn't suppose that this wallet was something that could get Oishi so excited. Oishi, after putting on a pair of disposable plastic gloves, handed me a pair of the same. I didn't feel that this wallet was such an important thing, so I had my doubts about whether there was any point in putting on the gloves. However, I didn't want Oishi's intentions to go to waste, so I put them on. Oishi opened up the plastic bag and pulled it out, showing me the back. As I had imagined, there were initials engraved there, but it was slightly more detailed than what I had thought, with Toishi I marked on it. Oishi grinned at me with a look on his face that said, "See? We can't confirm from that This belongs to the minister's grandson, I informed him calmly. This wallet was irrelevant. It was nothing more than Inoshi's overeagerness. First of all, there was absolutely no way in this distant locale that the missing grandson's wallet would be found with such convenient timing. After all, the Onakafushi Defense Alliance wasn't related to the case in the first place, so there was no way that this wallet belonged to the grandson. Why I wanted to decide that was the case, even I didn't really know. Even though what should have been a top-secret case was late before I had even been dispatched. In this situation, how could I say this was definitely unrelated? Would it be more prudent to pay more attention to this wallet? It had only been a couple of days since I arrived in Himazawa, but in those couple of days, due to the number of remarkable events, my nerves might have become just a little frayed. Shaking my head slightly, I cleared it of unnecessary thoughts. Oishi opened the wallet's zipper, revealing the contents. Inside was small change and a number of crumpled receipts. Oishi from that jumble pulled out a folded card. Seeing that, my heart stopped for a moment. It was a card from a dental examination. The name, Toshiki Unagai, and the age, a perfect match. The dentist's location was in Tokyo. There was no need to explain any further. How far was it from Tokyo to Hinamazawa? It was far enough that taking the bullet trains and the cars would still take several hours. Why would a wallet with a dental examination card from Tokyo inside show up in Hinazawa? Could it belong to a tourist who came from Tokyo, or maybe a villager on vacation to Tokyo just happened to pay a visit to the dentist? No, it had to have fallen into somebody's bag by accident. In my mind, I desperately struggled to find a possible excuse as to why this wallet didn't belong to Toshiki Inugai. I also decided that if I was going to further pursue actually trying to rescue the grandson in this situation and possibly making an enemy of the Sonozakis, I should tell Detective Oishi right this second that my cover has already been blown and that everyone in the village knows who I am and why I'm here. It was as if it just wouldn't do for this wallet to belong to him. However, weeding out any possibility for error, one by one, the haze surrounding the wallet in front of me faded, gradually letting it come into clear focus. See? I felt a shiver of electricity run up my spine. My pulse quickened and a thin film of sweat began to coat my entire body. From Oishi's point of view, I was probably slack-jawed and spaced out, with a slovenly look on my face. Did you get information from the dental office? That's your job, Akasaka-san. I didn't go that far. When did this wallet show up? The person who picked it up was a villager. They did so yesterday, it seems. Not that, I mean, when was this wallet dropped? It rained here last week, exactly 7 days ago. It doesn't look like the contents are water damaged, so the longest it could be would probably be 6 days. Does anybody else at the station have knowledge of the existence of this wallet? The officer first encountered it at the Hinamazawa police box, and also 2 or 3 people in charge of the lost and found. Other than that, it's just me and you. If it's involved in a classified case, it'd be bad to talk about, wouldn't it? I don't intend to wag my tongue. May I borrow a phone? Go ahead. Dial 0 to get an outside line. I dialed the phone number inscribed on the examination card. I could hear my pulse pounding inside my head. Could there possibly be something so absurd? The addresses on the receipts and cards inside the wallet were all from around the area where the grandson lived. The name on the examination card was also a match. The time we deduced that the wallet had been left behind also matched up with the timeline of the kidnapping. Of course, it was possible. I could just laugh it off as all a big pile of coincidences. There wasn't any strong evidence. Rather than all this circumstantial proof, the contents of the phone call I was about to make would have been much greater meaning. I feel this, while it's still a good idea to make this phone call, I would say finding this wallet with what was currently in it is solid proof. It's not circumstantial, it's actually very solid. Hello, sorry to keep you waiting. This is dental office. Hello, this is the police. I have a misplaced wallet here and am trying to get in contact with the owner. Would you be able to help me? Inside the wallet there was an examination card from your office. Yes, the name is Toshiki Unagai. If I give you the number on the card, would you be able to look up the phone number? Yes, thank you. If you could. Still holding the receiver, I pulled out a notebook from my breast pocket with my free hand. I opened it up to the page with the grandson's address and phone number recorded on it. Yes, hello. Yes, go ahead. I compared the phone number written in my notebook to the one that was being read out on the other end of the line. During that process, I spun around to look behind me uneasily. I locked eyes with Oishi. Oishi looked puzzled, wondering what was the matter why would I feel uneasy and look behind me? That was because the person on the end of the line was reading out the numbers as though doing so straight from my notebook. It seemed that HQ was in quite an uproar thanks to my report. No matter how many times the authenticity of the evidence I had linked to the grandson was called into question, I could only respond that it was the truth. When the lead investigator first picked up the phone, I was grilled about the evidence I'd found. That was almost too good to be true. If I did Okay, this is stupid. This is incredibly stupid. One, even if they think it's fake evidence, the fact that this is even in existence proves that there would be people that know about a classified case that shouldn't, which in of itself should be something I should be getting praised for. But at the end of the day is this. Here's the thing. I technically did a good job. I'm in the place I'm supposed to. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be. And then the day is this. I gave you evidence that's considered almost too good to be true. One, it has to be true, and even if it's not, it still gives us useful information. No matter what, I'm doing my job, and I'm doing a good job of it. This is not something I should be grilled about. Why would I be chastised? Why am I being admonished when I am not doing anything wrong, and in fact I'm doing everything, at least according to my job title, correct? Now maybe in terms of not getting killed by the people in this village, perhaps not correct. But in terms of what my job description is, and what I'm supposed to be doing, at least according to my job, I am doing the correct thing. I do not deserve to be grilled. I do not deserve to be chastised, insulted, talked down to, condescended to, or admonished. Okay? This is stupid. I should be getting praised for this. I should be getting a raise. But after having doubt after doubt dispelled, he fell into silence, and then apologized to me and gave me a raise. The receiver was finally handed over to the section chief. When he picked it up, the background thrum on the other end of the line disappeared. I knew that it had gone completely silent. After asking the same questions about the wallet the lead investigator did, the chief quietly spoke his next words. Got it. We'll dispatch several people as reinforcements. They should be able to make it there by evening. Akasa-kun, please continue with your investigation of the area. Get some information on the spot where the wallet was found. Kanu-san will select some people and head directly there. The fact that he was sending Kanawa, the lead investigator here, meant that the chief had decided there was a possibility that the Otaku Defense Alliance were somehow implicit in the kidnapping. However, it felt as though until the lead investigator, whom he trusted, had verified the evidence with his own eyes, he was still going to be skeptical about it. How'd it go? It seems that HQ is sending reinforcements. I was ordered to investigate the area. Where was the wallet dropped? By the way, I still need to tell HQ and Oishi that my fucking cover is blown. Like, I understand I mentioned the stuff about the wallet. But here's the thing. Did I mention anything about what the informant said yesterday? Like, here's the thing. Did I tell Oishi about what the informant said? About the Sonozakis being involved? Or about my cover being blown? Have I told Oishi? I feel both things. I feel both, especially since we've made the decision to go forward on this fucking path. Also, did me picking the red box make the wallet exist? If I picked the blue box, it would have been like a severed leg. Or nothing. Would I have just gone home? I don't know. Because the blue box is gone. Maybe I had Doom the Dark Ages in it. I don't know. But I need to give the additional circumstantial evidence by, or at least witness testimony, informant, like, one, what they said incriminating the village, and the fact my cover is blown. I need to tell HQ that my cover is blown. I need to tell Oishi. It's not either or. Both of them need to know. Okay? Even if I hung up the phone, I need to pick up the phone, call HQ back. I need to tell HQ my cover is blown. I need to tell Oishi my cover is blown. It's like, oh, I'm just going to investigate the... No. They need to know immediately. Around Takatsudo, apparently. This is Okonomiya. All the way over here, this is Hinamazawa. Then, even further upstream, way up here, is Takatsudo. Oishi explained where the wallet was found by the pointing location of the map on the wall. This place called Takatsudo was even more remote than Hinamazawa was. There's hardly anybody living in the area around Takatsudo. It was deserted a long time ago. It's littered with abandoned houses, so it's really quite desolate around there. Oishi-san, could I ask you to guide me to Takatsudo? Yeah, I don't mind. You can't really get in and out of Hinamazawa as you please by yourself, after all. Of course, I'll have to make you wear the cap, mask, and... Okay, again, I understand this concern, but HQ, Lead Investigator Kanue, and Oishi need to know that my cover has been blown. Hell, at this point, I need to call my wife. I need to call my wife and her father. I need to tell them, not necessarily where I am, because one, I'm not supposed to tell them that, because it's... And yes, maybe I don't need to worry my wife too much, because she's in childbirth, all that stuff, you know. And I don't need to tell them details about what I'm investigating or where I am. But I need to at least tell the father of my wife, hey, I still can't tell you the details of what I'm investigating or where I am, but dear father-in-law, who was there with my pregnant wife, I need you to know that the people I'm investigating have done something very, very bad. They are very dangerous people that would hurt innocent people. They have kidnapped a small child and may or may not do something terrible to said small child. My cover is blown. They may choose to come after you and my wife. They may choose to come after your daughter, sir father-in-law. You need to make sure to keep a close eye on my father-in-law and on my wife. Okay? I don't know if they would make the decision to go after her or not, but you should take preventative measures to at least keep her safe in case they do. Okay? Whether or not I tell my wife or not, I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't worry her so much, given the fact she's pregnant. But I need to at least tell my father-in-law that, hey, I can't tell you who or where I'm investigating, but I'm investigating very dangerous people that are doing very dangerous things. That know who I am, my cover is blown, and they may choose to target my wife. You need to keep your daughter safe. That Oishi agreed to company was very reassuring. If Sato-san's info was believed, my cover had been blown. I wasn't sure if the villagers would realize that the fresh meat dispatched from public safety was the tourist that had visited the village yesterday. In other words, me. This is something we already understand. But deciding that they hadn't noticed would have been overly optimistic. We need to tell Oishi right this second. Given a cursory thought, Takatsudo, where the wallet was found, couldn't be ruled out as a hiding spot for the kidnappers. The Takatsudo area didn't have any residual residential buildings, nor was it alongside a highway. There wasn't a reason for even the locals to go out of their way to visit it. It was exactly where you would call a long-forgotten ghost town at the end of the road. You couldn't ask for a better place to hold a kidnapped grandson. Also, you couldn't get to Takatsudo without passing through Himasawa first, though several conditions made the area all of the more important. I couldn't brush it off any longer. There was no longer any doubt the Onokafushi Defense Alliance, or somebody hired by them, were involved in the kidnapping. If that was the case, then the fact that this wallet was found might have already been leaked to them. They even knew so much as to how the Public Safety Division was operating. The case of the wallet couldn't be something they didn't know. In that case, there was a possibility that the enemy was lying in wait. To dive alone in enemy territory, surrounded by enemy territory, to say the least, required an amount of courage, nay, recklessness, that I just did not have. Without your company, Oishi-san, I wouldn't be able to step foot in the village so easily. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Honestly, I thought you would ask for more money. Well, if we're being honest, Himasawa isn't exactly a place I like to go. I'd at least appreciate if you paid for my cab fare. Still, it's not a request I can refuse from a friend that's played at the same table as me. Oishi's grinned as he pounded me on the back. It struck me that he didn't just want to jump ship rather than having any sort of sense of duty toward his job. Even so, that didn't really matter. Right now, I really appreciated the gesture. Well then, shall we hurry up and get going? If the enemy knew that the police had obtained the wallet, then they would probably have moved the hostage to a different place. There wasn't a moment to lose, but Oishi, without regard to the fact that we were about to head out, began to remove his jacket. What are you doing? Well, just a precaution. If you want me to poke that beehive to get your honey, I have to be rather well prepared, you see. Do you want to put one on too? What Oishi pulled from the drawer below the desk was a stab-proof vest. His name was Toshiki Unagai, the grandson of the Minister of Construction Unagai. Why did you use the word was? Why are we using pretense? Why are we using past tense? Why are we using the past tense here? There was only one reason for him being here. Was. Why did we use past tense? Why did we use the word was? Why are you guys so terrible? Did you not feed him? Did he die of heat stroke? If you didn't include gym or art class, his grades were above average. Reminds me of me. I was never athletic, and I I like artistic stuff. I'm just terrible at it. That was the result of having private tutoring sessions quite a week. I did not have that though. I was never rich. Hell, both in my current life as well as my younger life when I was like a child, I have never once been even considered part of lower middle class. I've not been really been poor. I mean, I've lived a good life. I mean, I appreciate everything. I've never at any point, me or any of my family, have we ever owned a house. Just saying, private tutoring is not a thing. If you omitted the fact that he still couldn't do pull-ups. Okay, come on! Reminds me of 8-Bit Theater Dungeons and Dragons. I will put a fucking link in the description. There wasn't much else that would make him hate school. Of course, he understood full well that his grandfather was a cabinet minister, but he also knew that not too many people were that interested in their relationship. He didn't like to go out of his way to bring up his grandfather or to call him the Minister of Construction. And finally, he at least tried to know a little bit more about what kind of work the Minister of Construction did than your average Joe. What it entailed was that when you tried your best to make life better for the masses, sometimes you made a few enemies. He knew that all too well from the time he'd spent as class representative. His grandfather had many enemies. He knew that he might personally catch some of that fallout, so he had to be twice as cautious. He was taught that by his parents. That's why the moment he was kidnapped, he instantly knew that this was one of those occasions. He understood that he wasn't being treated as Toshiki Unagai the person, but rather as Toshiki Unagai the grandson of the Minister of Construction. That he wasn't personally at fault, but that this was the result of some unavoidable trouble with his grandfather's work. It made little difference, but when he realized it wasn't because of anything he did, he was able to relax, if only a little. Of course, at first, he was struck with a terror befitting his age, wondering what was going to happen to him. But after a while of being tied up and only able to stay lying down, he began to ponder a great many things. First, he thought about the reason he was being abducted like this. He understood the answer to that easily. He was taken hostage to coerce his grandfather, the minister. There was no doubt about that. He didn't know exactly what the Minister of Construction did, but it was easy to imagine that there was much to be gained from threatening him. He respected his grandfather more than most. He earnestly believed that his own grandfather was within the top 20 of the most important people in Japan. That was exactly why he wouldn't forgive anybody who tried to threaten his beloved grandfather. More importantly, he wouldn't forgive anybody who would use him as a tool to threaten his grandfather. His grandfather was really busy and rarely had time to meet with relatives. That's why, with what little time he did manage to scrape together, he just dropped by unannounced, and as an apology for not being able to meet during the New Year's or summer's vacation, he doted on his grandson very, very much. The number of times that Toshiki was looked upon with disregard just because his grandfather was a politician and a minister certainly weren't few, but he never thought even once that he wanted his grandfather to quit being a politician, because it was his beloved grandfather. He wanted him to continue his career as long as possible from the bottom of his heart. However, Toshiki was now being held hostage, and his grandfather was being threatened. His grandfather, who called him the apple of his eye, was surely suffering. He might do anything to save his grandson, maybe even putting aside his ideology if it was required to save his grandson. He might cave into the culprit's demands if it meant saving his grandson. When Toshiki thought about that, an inexplicable anger welled up within him. In his current situation, he was unable to forgive the cowards who would make his beloved grandfather suffer by using such dastardly means. That feeling swelled up inside of him, displacing the fear. What he thought of first was something any boy would imagine. Get out of these bonds, beat up the bad guys, then hand them over to the police. Images of all the brave heroes from all the manga he had read passed through the back of his mind. I'll say this. While I understand and like Toshiki's feelings in the regard, I feel these are feelings that anybody would have. I will say this from the perspective of the Minister Unagai, and that is, if Minister Unagai was like a force ghost, able to hear the thoughts of Toshiki in this moment, and was able to communicate with Toshiki and tell him what to do, I would imagine most people in the grandfather's position would tell him, don't do anything reckless. Don't do anything to get yourself hurt. I understand, and I honestly am very grateful and appreciate that you feel that way. Like, I appreciate your feelings, grandson Toshiki. I appreciate your concern for me, and I appreciate your loyalty and your resolve. But I value much more your safety and that you come back alive. So while I am thankful and happy that you are thinking about doing something courageous and steadfast with the sake of honoring and serving me, what I have to tell you, grandson, is what I value most is your safety and your well-being. And while I am grateful and I greatly appreciate the feelings and love and reverence that you have for me, I value much more your safety and your well-being and your happiness. I value much more being able to see you again and being able to dote on you like I have many times in the past. I value your safety and your health and your life above all of these other things. I appreciate the feelings that you have and the desire that you have to fight those who would wrong me and those who would manipulate me. That being said, I would not want you to do anything reckless. I would not want you to get hurt. And I want you to understand that more than likely the thoughts you're having, while they're coming from a good place, while you mean well, and I truly do cherish that, I want you to know, grandson, that you are being delusional and that you are not thinking clearly. I mean, part of that I understand entirely. One, not only are you very devoted to me as a loving grandson should be, but you are in a precarious situation and you are perhaps thinking very emotionally. You are not thinking rationally. And again, I'm glad that you have such strong feelings in regards to me. And I can also not only understand your strong feelings, but also I understand that you are in a situation that is impeding your ability to think in a clear way. Plus, at your age, you're very young. And not to call you stupid, grandson, but more so you lack experience. After all, you are not only my grandson, but I see your grades. I keep a close eye on that. I know you're smart. I know you're intelligent, grandson, especially for your age. But I would say you lack the wisdom of age, and of course, experience. Not only general life experience, but honestly, I'm glad you don't have the experience of being in this situation before to think it out. But I understand that you have your strong feelings, that you're in a situation where you are not thinking clearly, both because of your emotions in regards to me, and in regards to your own safety and how you've been treated. Heck, I don't know if you've even had water, let alone a proper meal. The lack of food and hydration and proper rest is probably clouding your judgment. You have every right to be angry, not only for your concern for your beloved grandfather, but also out of the situation you're in. Anger, fear, insomnia. Because I doubt you're sleeping well in this situation. you're not thinking clearly for many reasons, from both noble as well as just generally experiences far beyond your control. For example, if you look back to the story Alice in Wonderland, the most canonical version of that story starts with Alice in the middle of a field during a bright, sunny, very warm summer day with her older sister, where her sister is sitting there reading a book. And Alice mentions that from the heat, she feels dizzy and stupid. Now, what does this mean in context? Simply put, a lot of words are used in varying ways in the past. Usually refer to yourself as feeling stupid is to describe a type of confusion and stupor brought along by not feeling well. After all, many people feel that way either from heat stroke or lack of sleep or certain emotionally chaotic situations that put one into a state of confusion. Alice mentions that she's dizzy and stupid. And while many versions of the story one could look at it as either a psychological break occurring, or possibly even schizophrenia, or even a drug trip, or as even a innuendo for many other things. But the most direct and clear explanation is that Alice is having heat stroke. In fact, the Let's Player Lunar D8, when reading a bit of the book Alice in Wonderland for a video, mentioned in the video his answer to the riddle, how is a raven like a writing desk? But you have to watch that video to hear his answer. If you need to figure out where that video is, just type the words Alice in Wonderland into the search bar on his channel. But my point being, Toshiki, as your grandfather, Minister of Construction, Minister Unagai, I value that I appreciate that you have this strong of a feeling for the honor of your grandfather. I truly appreciate that. But honestly, if I was a Jedi Force ghost and able to speak to you right now, hearing your thoughts, hearing your lamentations, and what you're thinking about doing, as long as I didn't think it would somehow prevent you from getting hurt. Like, obviously, if I knew that you were going to be hurt no matter what, no matter how you acquiesced to those holding you would do, if I knew for certain that they would hurt you, then yes, I would want you to do everything in your power to resist. Because at the end of the day, I want you to survive, Toshiki. I want you to stay alive. And above all, I want you as unharmed as possible. I value your health, your happiness, and your safety above all. And I greatly value being able to see you again. I want you to stay alive. I want you to be free of distress. Not only do I not want you to die, I don't want you to disappear. I want you to be able to return. And I don't want any harm to come to you. I don't want you to suffer any permanent harm to your health. And I don't want you to suffer any psychological trauma. And obviously the situation is very traumatic. But it could be much worse. I know at this point, I'm viewing it mostly as managing collateral damage. And it's perhaps why the denizens of Hinamizawa thought they could choose this path, because it is effective. It's dastardly, like you said, and I agree with you, it is dastardly and horrible and crosses many, many awful, terrible lines. But I'll say this, Toshiki. Because while I am the Minister of Construction, I am also a Jedi Master. And as a Jedi Master, I'm using my Force Ghost projection stuff to hear your thoughts and feelings, and to speak to you, even though I can't sense where you are. Okay, obviously a lot of convoluted bullshit here. But the main point I'm trying to get across is this. I would feel many people, including myself, if in the position of Minister Unagai was able to hear his grandson's thoughts in this moment and was able to speak to his grandson, and if he knew that if for 100% certainty that as long as my grandson cooperated and did not cause any problems for the kidnappers and simply behaved, that he would be released alive and unharmed with no damage to him. That I would speak to my grandson and tell him not to do anything reckless or fight or do anything. That if I knew, hey, if he resists, he's going to get hurt very badly, suffer psychological issues from that, suffer physical pain, possibly physical, a permanent physical injury. Above all, I would want my grandson safe, alive, unharmed, and with the minimum amount of physical damage to him and the minimal amount of any sort of psychological damage to him possible. That would be my greatest concern. That if I was a Jedi Force Ghost, able to just hear my grandson's thoughts in this regard, while I would genuinely greatly appreciate that he cares so much about me and that he feels so full of anger towards those who would wrong me, that he feels protective of his own grandfather despite his age, even though as young as he is, that he's protective. I would feel, above all, that if I could speak to my grandson right now, I would tell him to not do anything to get himself hurt, that I love him very much, and that I just don't want anything bad to happen to him. I don't want him to get hurt. And while I do genuinely appreciate that he wants to, do something heroic and act like a fucking anime character, like fucking Ichigo Kurosaki, and be all manly, that's courageous and that's good. I'm proud of him for feeling such courageous feelings. And my heart is moved that he cares so much about me, that he's so proud of me, that he cares so much for me, that every time I do see him, because I'm very busy with my job as Minister of Construction, that every time I go see him, that he values me as a person. And he doesn't really care about trying to use any sort of politician, like he's not trying to use stuff for sway or money or all that. He just legitimately cares about his grandfather, both in terms of me as a person and proud of me and what I do. And I appreciate that the feeling that he has, that he wants to be of help, but I would tell him no. That as long as if I'm under the impression that no harm would come to him if he doesn't do any of this, shonen anime manga stuff, then I would want him not to do any of that. Simply put, I would choose whatever path I think that would save his life, that would prevent him from getting hurt. I do not want my grandson to die, or to wind up becoming blind, or deaf, or having body parts cut off, or to be beaten, or to be subjected to any sort of psychologically traumatizing thing. Yes, I understand. He's in a strange place. He's been taken away. He's being held, in a very restrictive manner, to say the least, and that he's been taken away from his grandfather. He's been taken away from his home. And he's already been put into situations that he should not have ever been put into. He's certainly been made to put into situations of anger and fear, outright terror, and grief and sadness. Yes, psychological damage has already been done, but I would rather keep that to an absolute minimum. There is no reason why I would want further psychological damage to be done to him, let alone physical damage. As is, he can be returned unharmed with no damage to his body whatsoever, to where there will be no physical signs of anything wrong done to him, and it's not like they've also done anything inappropriate to him in terms of touching stuff. For the most part, they've just kidnapped him and kept him bound. And he has not been physically beaten, hurt, burned, cut, or anything like that. Now, am I angry that this has occurred? Yes. Yes, I am. I am furious. I am certainly filled with anger and a desire to inflict great harm upon those who would dare do such a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. However, my compassion and love for my grandson far outweigh any amount of anger or wrath I have. I am able to be calm. And while the suffering I would inflict upon everyone in Hinamizawa, I will fucking drop an atom bomb. Forget the fucking dam project. I don't need to build a fucking dam. The only reason I wouldn't want to drop a fucking nuclear bomb on Hinamizawa, obliterating millions of people that live around your town that are completely unrelated. They don't even know your town exists. And yet I will fucking burn them to the point that no one will even find the ashes. Like the people that are on the other side of that fucking mountain. The people that are on the other side of that goddamn motherfucking swamp. They don't even know your fucking town exists. But there will be something. It'll be a fucking goddamn fucking crater. Okay? So let's put it this way. The only reason I'd feel bad about doing that to your fucking town is that all of you would die instantly. You wouldn't even live long enough to understand that you're dying, let alone suffer adequately for what you've fucking done. Okay? As is, you've crossed lines in what you've done. I didn't give a shit about you doing the violent shit with the protests and all that shit. That's fine. That's just legal stuff. And even then, I'd understand. Even if we wound up arresting Mion or anybody in your town for a moment, I'd understand. I'd still let you guys out of jail. Even if you broke some construction equipment and we arrested you and we even got you surveillance cameras, that's fine. I don't care about the machinery shit. That doesn't matter to me. I don't really give a shit too much about the dam. You know why I care about the dam? It's going to help other people. And it's even going to help you guys. Okay, I understand. You didn't really want to move. And heck, I'm open to discussions. And even then, the main point of building the dam is to be of greater help to everyone in the country as a whole. All those people that would be in that nuclear blast radius if I drop a nuke right in the middle of your town, all of those people would be benefited. And of course, here's the thing. I'm trying to work with you. I am doing what I'm doing for the benefit of everybody. And I want to help everybody. I want to do what's right for everybody, and I want to make this world a better place. I want to be as efficient and as competent as my job as possible. And I want to be empathetic and understanding. I'll listen to all of you. I'll go sit, talk to all of you, your mayor, the de facto pseudo-mayor that's an old lady that lives in a fucking bed. Obviously, I'm being a bit disrespectful and facetious here with you. But, this conversation is happening under less than civil circumstances, okay? There's a few thousand of you. I understand. You have very rich heritage of your home. I understand. Change is hard. I don't like change either. I might be autistic, okay? Apparently, while I'm not really a person for routines or any such thing, I am a person who doesn't like change. And I like doing things a certain way. Granted, I don't have certain routines of this has to be done a certain, this time of day or certain thing like that. In fact, I'm very much a procrastinator. Though, and I'm also a person who tends to have a bit of short-term memory issues from time to time. I also tend to get easily distracted and my mind wanders between dozens of different topics at one time. And I sometimes hyperfixate on things. And I sometimes maybe just a little, while trying very hard to communicate with people, maybe I communicate in a way that doesn't make sense to other people. In fact, I've been told many times in both the way I write essays for school when I was younger, to even now, that the way I write, let alone the way I talk, but even the way I write, is something called a disorganized speech. So, that's not something I can really help. I communicate the way I communicate. And while I think I'm fairly good at being socializing, I do, however, feel a great deal of anxiety with it. But I can do so if I need to. But that being said, I am also a very introverted, withdrawn individual. I do like being sociable, and with people that I do care about, I am very, very affectionate and caring and doting. When it comes to friends or family, I am very doting and caring to them. But at the same time, if it comes to a romantic partner, I am very hyper affectionate like a fucking puppy dog. That being said, everyone has their own way of expressing themselves. And many people have to behave a certain way when it comes to society. However, there's a task called masking. Now, this can apply to many different types of things. Now, the first time I heard about this term is when looking up different symptoms and characteristics of people that are autistic. And like I said, I don't know if I'm autistic. I've never been officially diagnosed. I have overtaken many, many online internet tests from, actually accredited medical, research things. Things. Saying the worst things there does not sound very professional. I'm not trying to sound professional. I'm not professional at all. I'm the only thing consistent about anything I fucking do with this channel or my life is a complete lack of professionalism. I'm just, for example, I try to do juggling. I'm not very good at it, but I enjoy doing it. I enjoy many hobbies. I'm terrible at them, but I still enjoy doing them. I'm just saying this. I've taken many of those tests. According to those tests, I am extremely, extremely, extremely depressed and also have ADHD and also have autism. Apparently the autism tests, I'm very, very, very autistic. I also have an IQ of 132. At least according, though the IQ tests were back when I was like 12 and 13 and 14. And I'll say this, not that it fucking accomplished much. Granted, I'm thankful for my job, but I do work in a factory. And my short-term memory is fucked up, and I seem to have lapses in my common sense processing, centers in my brain to try to make it sound... Simply put is this. There's many times where, when it comes to doing certain things, I will try to think things out rationally, and I'll try to make what I think is a smart decision, or try to do things, and a lot of times I fail, and I fuck up, and it makes me feel like I'm retarded. Sometimes I feel like I'm retarded. Sometimes I feel like everyone in the world thinks I'm stupid, and they think I'm retarded. and I feel like I'm incompetent and can't do anything right. I have very low self-esteem in regard to many, many things. If I had to list off all the things I feel low self-esteem about, we'd be making this video for all eternity. That being said, the main point I'm trying to get across is this. I don't know if I'm autistic. I do know that when I took IQ tests when I was 12, 13, and 14, I got a score of 132 consistently, sometimes higher. I got an honors diploma when I graduated from high school. I had a 4.0 straight A's, and I was doing things like calculus and physics and chemistry. And back then, I was very, very good at those things. So much so that even my teachers were a bit taken aback by how well I was at doing those things. Now, that being said, can I do those things anymore? Probably not. Honestly, especially my short-term memory has gone really, really bad, and my attention span is like a fucking goldfish. Like, my attention span, and I'm getting worse in terms of repeating certain things I say. Like, sometimes my mind might get stuck on a loop, or that I'll forget that I just said something. Or sometimes I'm fully aware I just said something, but I feel the need to say it again. And it's not something that feels voluntary. So, I guess the best way to put it is, I'm worried I may get early onset Alzheimer's. I mean, granted, I have had many concussions, I've been poisoned, I've had like a dozen fevers of 106, one fever even of 107. My blood at one point tried to kill me. I've also had swelling of the brain and swelling of the spinal cord. I'll tell you this, spinal taps fucking suck. That hurts like a bitch. Then again, so does having a extra thick catheter from a bladder surgery that's the thickness of a number 2 pencil up your dick for 49 hours straight. By the way, I measured it after I removed it from my dick, which I almost passed out a few times doing that. But the amount of it that was up me was 14 inches, and of course it was a Foley catheter, so it had the Foley balloon, which had to be deflated for, which in and of itself was very weird. I'm just saying this. That was fucking miserable. And that was very painful. That was awful. Then again, like I said, had the swelling of the brain. But that was like the bladder surgery like a year and a half ago. But it's about 8 years ago. Had the swelling of the 8.5 years? I don't know. Had swelling of the brain, spinal cord. Had meningitis and encephalitis. Spent 3 days in the ICU being pumped full of chemicals in order to prevent me from dying. Then again, a few months before that, which again, it was like 8+ years ago, my mom had 3 strokes and an aneurysm. I was worried that would kill her. I felt very sad. I loved my mom very, very much. That being said, my mom is becoming elderly. I'm seeing her sort of decay. And granted, it's not like she's on death's door right now, but I love my mom very, very, very much, and I will miss her a lot, and I will feel very devastated whenever she dies, and I don't want her to die. So I hope that she lives for many more years. She has her issues, she certainly has her flaws, but I wouldn't trade her for any mom in the world, and I accept and love her with all of her flaws and imperfections and issues. Yes, she has her issues. She has her problems. And she has certainly not been a saint. But as far as I'm concerned, I think she did a good job of being a mother and a parent. And I am appreciative of everything that she's ever done for me. And I love her very, very, very much. Heck, she spent 3 days and 3 nights over here with me after I had the bladder surgery. And of course, 8 years ago, I was like a year and a half ago. I had the bladder surgery, and my mom was over here for 3 days and 3 nights over here with me. I appreciated that. And of course, 8 years ago, I was in the hospital for 3 days, being pumped full of chemicals to prevent me from dying. And about a couple of months before, or actually maybe a month and a half before, I was admitted to the hospital for that. She had 3 strokes and an aneurysm. Actually, it was a blessing and a miracle from God. Jesus Christ is definitely looking out for us there. That she had the first stroke in a public place and was immediately rushed to the hospital. Had that stroke happened at home, let alone even in the middle of the day, let alone at night, she would be dead. She would have been dead. And I'm grateful that she didn't die. She was also able to make a complete and full recovery after 4 months. Now, that being said, about an additional 7 or so years before those strokes and aneurysm occurred, my eldest sister, had a brain aneurysm. Now, as far as we're aware, she didn't have any strokes. She just had like one massive brain aneurysm all at once, instantly turning her into a vegetable. Now, I guess the main thing to say about that is that even if that had occurred in public, it was literally nothing that could have been done. Even if doctors had been like doing brain scans or something ahead of time, they wouldn't have been able to catch it. It was completely unpreventable and impossible to catch. And even if like it had occurred in public, there literally would have been nothing. Like even if she was immediately rushed to the honestly, even if it like she had already been in a hospital for something else, and it happened there, it wouldn't have mattered. Then again, maybe I'm just telling myself that to make myself feel better, as opposed to it just being that she was married at the time, and her husband just said that he just found her on the floor. So, in the morning, when he woke up, my mom did also mention to me concerns that she thought maybe he had done something to kill her, but there's no way to know about that or anything. So, but aside from conjecture and stuff, it's just the solid facts of the matter is she had a brain aneurysm. She suffered severe brain damage from that, turning her into a coma. Actually, worse than that, their doctors were literally saying that everything in the brain was completely dead. But, waited a few days, kind of hoping for a miracle there. But, obviously, given what I've already mentioned with the story, you guys know how that story turned out. Then again, I've talked about other things in regards to my sister, especially with the issues she had with children. She had many, many miscarriages, even though I don't think she ever used any kind of protection. I think she was trying for kids for most of her life and then kept not succeeding at that. And then had like 3 stillborn children, which I've already gone into detail about how that went. Then she had a child, and then about not too long before that child was going to turn 1, my sister had that brain aneurysm. So technically it's a thing that runs in the family. Then again, I guess that runs in all of humanity, strokes and aneurysms and heart attacks. Just saying. Point being, I've at least had brain scans, MRI, CT, X-rays, whatever. At least according to that, there is nothing wrong with my brain in any way. So yay. That being said, I've had many concussions. I've been hit by a truck before. I've been in multiple car accidents. Heck, there was a car accident when I was like 12 years old. My mom actually leaned over me and saved my life. She took the brunt of that blow. However, it was a bit unnerving to me as a 12-year-old to look at my mom to see a giant cut across her head to where part of her flesh was pulled to the side, and not only was there blood, but also I could see the white of her skull. So that was an unusual feeling that I had at that moment. It was not a pleasant one. But I've been in several car accidents. I think the most notable for me is the one where I got slammed right into my driver's side by a full-size truck going 75, one of those full-size Ford pickup trucks, the big-ass ones, going 75 miles an hour, and it just like straight on hit me. I couldn't move my left arm hardly for about a couple months. I needed at least a dozen plus staples, if not more, on the left side of my skull. I can still feel where the scar is. All my ribs were as bruised as possible without being broken. And from my waist down to my feet, both my legs were covered in large bruises that were black and purple that felt like the texture of a basketball. You know, like the pressure you feel on a basketball, like an overinflated basketball? That's what they felt like. I was quite sore. Doctor gave me some Vicodin. Had enough for a week, and I'll tell you this, even during that week, I was still a bit in pain. Also, it was kind of hard to walk for the first couple days to the bathroom without, stumbling a little bit, just because my sense of balance was kind of a little bit more fucked up. And in general, I don't have a good sense of balance. I never could ride a bicycle. And people say, oh, it's never too late to learn. Like, no, you don't understand. It's not. Granted, I'm not going to argue and say that I'm skillful. I'm not skillful. I'm definitely very not talented or skillful. But also very much more than that is I have a natural, really shitty lack of balance. To the point that if I were to do a DUI test, I would probably fail, even though I don't drink alcohol. So I just really have a terrible sense of balance. Like, I'll do stretches every day, and sometimes when I'm doing lunges, I'll start to fall over. I have a very bad sense of balance. Also, I would never be able to afford the medical bills of trying to learn to ride a bicycle because I'd probably fall over a lot, and I wouldn't be able to afford those medical bills. I'm just saying this. Not only would I be very bad at learning that skill, not only do I have the skill for it, I have a really bad sense of balance, okay? Like, I am really, really not that coordinated. I am not an athlete in many ways. I've never had a six-pack once in my life, and I've never, been, very athletic. I have never been somebody that you would imagine plays football. Okay? I would never be mistaken as somebody that is a football person, okay? But I guess the main thing I'm saying is I at least was able to do well in school. Heck, in Scouts, I was an Eagle Scout. And I've always had a great interest in a lot of many subjects. Heck, I would watch a lot of History Channel growing up. Even when I was 9, 10, 11. Stuff about ancient history, various civilizations, nature, animals, World War One and World War Two, technology, space travel, microorganisms, electricity, how things work, how electronics work, how things in the past would work, how things were in different ages, or even how things were in the times of dinosaurs. Heck, at one point I had a book about various dinosaurs of lots of facts and dates and stuff. I really liked that book. I miss not having that book. Not because it was really a super special book, but also because it's more so, I also see it as a sentimental thing. It was a thing my mom had given me. And I've told my mom at some point I plan to try to buy another one at some point and then bring it over to show her. Heck, my mom would sit and play Mario 1 and Mario 3 and the original Spyro with me when I was very young. Neither of us were really any good at it, but I really did value very much spending that time with her. My mom also did a lot of cooking and cleaning. She did laundry, cleaned around the house, and she spent time with me, and she was there when I was sick or throwing up, and she helped me with stuff with school sometimes, namely writing stuff. Like we didn't have computers back then. We had a typewriter, and we really couldn't afford to spend a shit ton of money on ink. So I would write out my essays for school. Like, everything else was fine. Like, I would do things in math that my mom couldn't even begin to understand. Heck, even when I was doing just basic algebra, my mom had no idea how to understand any of it. And I didn't even have to show my work. I could just write down a problem and I could instantly solve it just by looking at it. And but when it came to actually English classes, which again, it's not like I had trouble speaking my own language. It's that the way I talk it's not very concise, especially if I allow myself to just talk the way thoughts pour out of my head. I mean, it's one thing I could maybe make a bulleted point list and just sort of, but even then I can't seem to stay on the correct topics. And I'll say this, even with stuff being reorganized, I've reread stuff I've written, especially when I was very young, when I was 9 years old. And it's very, even by my standards today, it's very cringy the way I was, but I think we all feel that way sometimes when we look back at the way we were when we were very young. Heck, sometimes I've considered the idea of sharing pictures of myself from back when I was a very small child. It's just interesting looking back to see what I looked like way back then. I do feel that if I could talk to that version of me from back then in those pictures, that version of me would actually still be the same personality I have now. That version of me would be understanding of everything. That version of me would still be proud of me. Now, granted, I do have low self-esteem and feel, disconcerting feelings about my own value. But at least I feel that I've not done anything immoral. It's just a question of I've not been very successful. And I feel like I've failed in a lot of things in life. I mean, I'm certainly not rich. And I've never been able to really build muscle. And I'm a bit chubby. And I've had a lot of bad things happen in my life that I really couldn't do anything about. That made me feel very sad and helpless and angry. But I think that version of me, the younger one, wouldn't look down on me that. It would just perhaps be sad at realizing that there's some sad things in the future, but all in all, would still be proud of me for making it through everything. And I think both the me that exists right now and the me back then would look at each other and we'd both say the exact same thing to each other. That all think good things in time, that we'll keep working toward things. We'll keep making improvements. We don't need to be so hard on ourselves, and we're doing the best we can. That we should be proud of ourselves and we should care about ourselves more. And all in all, there's many things in life to be happy for and to be grateful for. And that we're doing good. And that we can keep this up. We can keep trying every day and keep going. But yeah, I guess the main thing I was just trying to say is that, for all intents and purposes, I'm not stupid. I had really good grades in school. I took classes like calculus and physics and chemistry. I have an interest in a lot of things, and I've actually been, well read when it came to things like history and knowing things like science. Whether it's like how the weather works or how electricity works or how, different concepts work. Now, granted, I'm no expert, and there's many things I don't understand, and of course, my short-term memory's gone to shit. And of course, I don't know everything. I certainly don't. Heck, I know enough to know that there's so many things in life that I really don't know anything about. Like, I know enough about math to know that even at my best, when I was still doing the calculus classes, that there was much about much higher level mathematics that, I'm pretty sure there's many, even at my best, I'm pretty sure there was many high level college calculus classes that I think I would have never understood. Especially when it comes to things like history or science or how certain electricity works, certain types, or how different electrical motors and how a car actually works. I understand things in theory, but if it had to come down to me trying to figure out how to fix something, I don't think I could actually do that. And I know that there's many things I wouldn't actually understand. I understand I have my limitations, even when I was in my prime. And when I was doing classes like physics and chemistry. Now I'll say this, the reading and studying that stuff was fascinating, and I was actually really good at it. But even back then, I would certainly say that I would have my limits and that there would be many things that, yes, I could probably improve upon if I were to study very, very much. But even then, I fully acknowledge I would have my limitations, that there would be things I wouldn't understand. And there's things that even other random people might understand better than me. But I'm by no means stupid, even in my older age at this point, where I can fully acknowledge that I'm getting older, my short-term memory's kind of gone to crap, and I have taken many blows to the head. I'm not stupid. Now, yes, I don't really remember how calculus or chemistry or physics works. But at the same time, I haven't studied that stuff in decades since I was in high school. I'm 38 now. Now, that being said, would I be able to relearn it? Maybe. But at the same time, there'd be no benefit for me to do so. It'd be one thing if I was doing some sort of job where I would need to learn that and it could actually financially benefit me. And don't get me wrong, I do have a general interest of it just for my own curiosity and my own desire to learn such things. But there are so many things that interest me, and at the end of the day, the only reason I would actually sit down and force myself to focus on that as a priority above the others is if there was some financial incentive for me to do so. And even then, I don't know what my capabilities would be when it comes to that. But at this time being, it's just not beneficial for me to waste my time on that when there's other things that I want to do more. Now, that being said, just wanted to say, I graduated high school with an honors diploma, had straight A's, 4.0, and did classes like calculus, physics, and chemistry. I read quite a bit of things, and even now I wouldn't say, by no means am I stupid. But I do fully acknowledge that I may be very, very autistic, and I may have various types of mental illness and psychological damage. I may have very low self-esteem. I may have very, very bad short-term memory. I may have ADHD. I may have several forms of PTSD, since I can easily think of 100 different things that have occurred over my life that would each be things that would have induced severe PTSD in a human being. So, just saying, that's been a bit of a time to think about, reminisce, ruminate over things, to come to terms with certain things and deal with certain negative things that were said or done that I did not appreciate and that were very bad, especially the things that were life-threatening. But many things usually, hopefully, are better in time. That's not true of all things, but in general, I feel I'm okay. Albeit a bit increased social awkwardness and very much low self-esteem, and I tend to feel like I am adverse to doing things, because I always feel like if I try harder, I'm just going to fail worse. So I feel like I don't want to try to do things, because I feel like I'm just going to fuck up. Like, I feel like I'm just a failure at everything. And I feel very, very many bad negative self-esteem issues. Basically, I'm just trying to say I'm not stupid, but I tend to misunderstand things in terms of how to do certain things sometimes. Like, say sometimes when I'm driving a forklift, sometimes I'm having trouble driving it the correct way, or moving what I need to move where it needs to go. Or if there's a machine that needs fixed and I need a certain type of tool for it, I might get the wrong one. Or if I need a type of gear or replacement roll to go inside, a certain type of machine, sometimes I'll grab the wrong thing that I should know I shouldn't need, but Or I'll go do something on a machine, and then I'll even remind myself out loud, telling myself to do the thing, and then I'll forget to do the thing. Then again, it's also like when I leave a grocery store, I'll double check to make sure I'll check my pockets to make sure my phone, keys, and wallet are still in my pockets. I didn't just like leave them or forget them or somewhere. Or like I'll be driving my car and like I'll like reverse out of a parking space, and then I'll go to like I want to go out of reverse. I like obviously my shifter is not at all like how it is on a forklift. And even though I don't really drive a forklift that much, sometimes when I'll go to like I'm reversing out of a parking space in my car, and then I'm going to go like I want to go forward now, rather than reaching for the shifter and shifting it out of reverse and into drive, I'll click where the area for a forklift would have it. Like a forklift, it's a thing on the left, whereas a shifter in a car is on your right. So what I'll do is I'll still be shifting reverse on my car, and I'll go over on the left side of my steering wheel, where where my lights are, where my turn signal is. And I'll push that up, which is what you do for turning on your right turn signal. But I'll be doing that because my muscle memory is telling me I want to go forward. So it's like I'm reversing out of a park space and I'm using the shifter with my right hand. And then it's like, and of course in a forklift you're using your right hand to adjust the forks, because there's an up, down, a tilt, and a side shift, and among other things that can be done. But the left side is there's a thing that's like your turn signal on your car, but what it does is it shifts you from neutral to forward to reverse. Even though I'm currently, like, I have already used my right hand to shift into reverse out of park to get out of a parking space, then when I'm like, okay, I'm going to go forward now, I'll wind up hitting the turn signal and turning the turn signal on, even though that's what you would do on a forklift to go forward. And yeah, that sounds stupid of me. And it's like there's certain things like that I'll do, and I feel like I'm retarded. Because why would I go to hit the turn signal in order to go forward? That's not how a car shifts. So it's just little things like that. But in general, I'm just saying this. I'm not stupid. I actually am smart. But I also tend to be a bit scattered brain, forgetful, short-term memory issues. And sometimes I have issues like that. And in general, there are sometimes, like, and here's the thing. I mean, I'll still mess up a math problem here and there. I'll still not remember a fact about some war that occurred hundreds of years ago correctly. But it's just, I don't know if I am autistic or have autism or anything. There's a term called masking. It's a thing where people hide symptoms of a mental illness in order to fit better into society and get along with people and be sociable. I don't really even understand if I do that. I do actually, like, if I'm around people, I'm always smiling and I'm friendly and I'm nice to people. And granted, sometimes I don't really feel like talking to people. Sometimes I'd rather just be alone. But I I don't behave the way autistic people do in movies or in shows, like the way it's represented in TV shows. I don't act like that, and I know like some people like have certain like routines, like certain things have to be done at a certain time in this way. I don't do that, but I do understand that the way I talk is very incoherent, jumbled mess, and I do know that anytime I've taken any of those online tests that are about autism stuff, I, well, passed those with flying colors. So, and I don't know from the perspective of anyone that even bothered listening to me talking like this if I sound like I'm autistic in some way to people, if it if it's something that's noticeable, at least to other people. I don't. Just saying. Then in general, I can. Different parts of me will come out around different other people. Like my mom. Like, I trust my mom. Granted, yeah, there's things she's said and done that I don't like, and, you know, she's given me some issues sometimes where I'd have reason to not feel fully trusting of her. But I can still say that I trust her more than any other human on the planet. And I love her more than any other human on the planet. I care about her very, very much. And heck, I remember growing up, she'd cook a lot of food from scratch. She'd be in the kitchen cooking and making food, and one, I appreciated that she spent the time cooking that food and making it, and I ate it and I liked the food she made. But also, when she was cooking, I would sit in the kitchen and talk to her. Now, she's even mentioned a lot of times, sometimes back then, I'd talk about stuff like the History Channel or math and stuff, and I'd be trying to explain certain things, and she said she wouldn't understand it at all. But even if the things I talked about were things she didn't understand, even if the things I talked about were in ways that I phrase and organize my sentences in a way that is a fucking jumbled, schizophrenic mess, I appreciate that she listened to me. And I valued every moment I spent with her. So, heck, I remember clearly the day my son was born. I mean, not just when he was born, I remember everything about when he was born. Not just the day he was born, I remember all the events leading up to it. The day before, the day after, how he was holding him shortly after he was born. I also remember the episiotomy his mother had. I mean, it wasn't a C-section, but dear God, that was... I'm just saying this. It was... On the one hand, it was a very wonderful, happy feeling to see your child be born. On the other hand, it's also fucking terrifying. But, yeah, I remember everything about the hospital. I remember everything about that day when he was born. I remember months before that building his crib. And I remember building his toddler bed. I remember decorating his bedroom. That's still the way it is now. Heck, after the divorce, for the first 5 years, I spent a couple hours a day sitting in his room talking to his stuffed animals. I have so many happy memories of doing everything I could to try to be the best father in the world to him, at least to my ability and to my circumstances. But even though things turned out the way they did, I'm very thankful for everything. I appreciate and grateful to God for everything He's blessed me with. Even if a lot of things in life are not what I thought they'd wind up being. I also do like walking on bike trails quite a bit. I enjoy Let's Play video games. Heck, Doom Dark Ages comes out in a week. That'll be a lot of fun. I think I'll actually get that. But, yeah, I mean, I might have some form of autism. I mean, might be other things too, but yeah, I don't know. Dear listener, viewer person, do you think I have autism? I mean, if I do, I mean, it doesn't change anything. It's not like I'd be taking any sort of medication for it or anything. If I'm autistic or anything, it's not like I view it as there being anything wrong with me. It's more so, it's like a colorblind person asking somebody, what color is my hair? The autism thing would be, what shade of hair color do I have? Obviously, I wouldn't like being colorblind. I like seeing colors. But the point is, in my description here, in my little analogy, my color blindness is my inability to see if I'm autistic or not. I can't see the different colors and shades that would, show if I'm autistic or not. I don't, I'm not able to know that. But in this situation, me being autistic would be, is my hair purple? Or something. At this point, it's me just asking you guys, hey guys, is my hair purple? I can't tell. I mean, if my hair is purple, there's nothing wrong with that, and I'm perfectly okay and happy with my hair being purple. I just kind of want to know, though. But I suppose we got distracted from the story. I guess the main thing I was trying to say is this. I am the Minister of Construction. I am Minister Unagai of Japan. It is the year 1981. And my grandson was taken by the people of Hinamizawa. I feel very angry about this. I feel very upset about it. But my compassion and love for my grandson outweighs all those feelings. I'll manage whatever collateral damage I have to, and make the decisions I have to. Because as far as I'm concerned, the greater good is just making sure my grandson is alive. That's what matters most to me. My grandson is alive, he's happy, he's healthy, he's safe, he's unharmed. That's what matters most. To try to give him the least psychological damage possible, and to give him as much support and assurance, and be there for him as much as I'm allowed to be. And as long as my grandson is returned, as long as my grandson is safe, as long as he's happy, as long as he's healthy, as long as whatever circumstances are occurring, that my grandson is in the best place for him, as long as he is well, that's That's all that matters. And I seek no retribution against the citizens of Hinamizawa. However, if my grandson is not returned safely out of your fucking shithole, like, here's the thing. As long as my grandson is safe and unharmed, and this situation comes to a resolution where he is happy and safe, and he's able to live the best life he can, so that my grandson, Toshiki Unagai, is able to live a normal life and grow up and become an adult, and, he's able to still have a good childhood. He's still able to be happy and safe and healthy, and everything's given him, and he's able to at least be safe and happy and loved, and as long as everything's good with that, that's fine. My compassion and love for my grandson outweighs all the other things, and I will have no ill will toward anyone in Hinamizawa whatsoever. However, if my grandson dies, and you hostage-taking people, if Toshiki Unagai dies, I feel like we're taking one step away from Mel Gibson's the movie The Ransom. There's a movie, The Mel Gibson. I don't know if you guys have seen much Mel Gibson. He's done a lot of very good movies, including Braveheart and Passion of the Christ. But he's done a lot of very good movies. One of them being Ransom. Good movie. In fact, I would strongly suggest people like Mel Gibson or Robin Williams as people that you should definitely watch their material. Robin Williams did a lot of stand-up comedy. If anything, I would say his stand-up comedy is much better than his roles in movies. Granted, don't be wrong, Robin Williams did good in movies. I'm just saying I like his stand-up comedy a lot more. I'm just saying this, though. If my grandson dies, I will fucking nuclear bomb strike your goddamn shithole of a town. Okay? I will find out what happens if I take the strongest fucking hydrogen bomb possible. I will fucking get the fucking, not just the Sarabamba that the fucking Russians did, but the theoretical maximum yield Sarabamba that would have had such an explosive yield to it that the fucking pilot who dropped the bomb would have never been able to fly away from the explosion fast enough to live. The fucking fireball would have engulfed his fucking plane. Okay? I will fucking incinerate half of Japan. I will launch fucking Castle Bravo into your fucking swamp. So much so that all of Okonomiya will be dust. They will be consumed in the fireball with you. There will be no record of Hinamizawa ever existing. Your entire history, all of it will be gone. The only thing will be left will be a fucking shit-ass hole in the ground that the water on the sides of Japan will flow into, and then no one will ever know you were there. I will obliterate half of Japan over the life of one person. Okay? I will sit in fucking Tokyo and I will watch the fucking mushroom cloud pierce the goddamn stratosphere. Okay? Just saying this. Toshiki Unogai. You do not return him. I'm just saying this. I am the Minister of Construction. What I care about most is the well-being of my grandson above all else. I will fucking nuke Hinamizawa, and I will kill millions and millions of people and start outright World War III, to the point that Pakistan and India will start launching nukes at each other. Okay? Fucking people in France and Britain will look across and they'll see on the horizon just the effervescent glow of hydrogen bombs cooling their Pepsi. And they'll be like, about that time, eh? Righto, chaps. Okay? Kangaroos in Australia will fucking drown in nuclear fallout snow. Okay? I will fucking atomize everything in Hinamizawa. I will fucking drop a straight up hydrogen bomb, which the weakest hydrogen bomb in the world is at least 100 times stronger than the blast of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Okay? The only reason we didn't drop a hydrogen bomb on Japan is because there was no target big enough for that. Because at the end of the day, if the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki had been hydrogen bombs, there wouldn't have been a Japan left. The fucking blasts would have started touching each other, basically. Exactly. It'd be like the tips touching. It's like frauding. It's like the fucking sexual fucking joke, okay, of dicks touching each other. Except in this situation, it's fucking nuclear warheads. And all of you fucking becoming dust. So much so that even your fucking grandparents that are buried in the fucking ground, their corpses that are in the fucking soil, caskets and all, along with their headstones, will be fucking dust. You will all die. I will obliterate all of Japan. All over one fucking person. Over just my grandson alone. As far as I'm concerned, my grandson's life alone matters more than 2 billion people. Like, all of a sudden, if like hell with this, if there's suddenly news that 2 million people have suddenly died in a fucking atom bomb fireball, I will care less about those 2 million, if even 200 million lives, than I will about my one individual grandson. Okay? Is that petty and vindictive? Yes, it certainly is. Do I fucking give a shit about if you care? No, because you'll be fucking dust. Why would I care? I will sit in my fucking office and we will draw up plans to build a giant fucking Tokyo mega dam around the giant fucking hole of water that is separating Japan into 2 giant goddamn motherfucking islands, okay? I'm just saying, citizens of Hinamizawa. And this visual novel doesn't have to be a horror story. It doesn't have to, we don't have to have the Watanagashi that's at Cotton Drifting Festival become the Gut Spilling Festival. You know, we could just have Rika Furude come back out, and we have, onigiri, we call them jelly donuts. Then we have Brock from Pokemon run across using a fucking skillet, a frying pan, as an umbrella, as his trusty drying pan. Yes. Anyone who's not watched the Pokemon first movie, the original movie, you need to fucking watch it. Each of the first 3 Pokemon movies were the best Pokemon. Hell, a lot of movies in the past are better than we were fucking now. Yes, I sound like a fucking old person. But each of them had a little individual mini movie at the start. Heck, I had the soundtracks to the first 3 Pokemon movies. They were fucking awesome. I would actually make mixes later on when I got older and I was a teenager that are a mix of like Pokemon soundtracks and Final Fantasy soundtracks and Dragon Ball Z soundtracks and Rammstein and Korn and Nickelback and System Down and Disturbed and Stained and Seether and Shinedown. All that really, really good stuff. I like Nightcore music now too. At least for about a decade though. Like my 20s. So I think that's what Nightcore music exists. Also dubstep. And all that stuff. Heck, I like stuff like Skrillex, Path of Totality, Tool album. I mean, not Tool. Korn album is cool. Though Korn, I think Untouchables was the best album. Also, again, speaking of which, Tool, A Perfect Circle, Smile Pretty Soul. Yeah, Tool is a great band. Okay. And everyone's like, "What do you want to do right now?" I want a hot, big titty, futanari girlfriend to listen to Tool with me, have lots of hardcore sex. Yes, she'd be the top. I also want her to sit and play the Doom Dark Ages game with me and Halo co-op and play Magic the Gathering and go on walks on the bike trail with me. Yes, maybe sit on the front porch with me, watch a fucking rainstorm and sit there and drink some tea and some Pepsi and stuff. Not mixed over, of course. You don't mix tea and Pepsi. That's gross. I'm just saying this. I like both, just not at the same time. I like tea. I like Pepsi. It's just, yes, I know it's weird that I like to just sit and watch a rainstorm. That if it's a really strong thunder, heck, if there was a fucking tornado going off outside and there was tornado sirens, you know what I would do? I'd go outside and walk in the rain and try to walk toward the tornado. And I have my arms up in the air to try to feel the fucking wind. Like I'm standing in a goddamn Kamehameha. But I'm actually caressing the Kamehameha wave. Yes, I've made Kamehameha waves in a fucking tornado sexual. What are you going to do about it? And everyone's like, what the fuck are we talking about? I don't know. Okay, I should probably return to reading the visual novel. Everyone's like, what the fuck is the Lunar D8 channel? I told you, there is no professionalism here. Then again, you guys are probably a bit shocked at this because I didn't do my intro, so there's no bracing you for the stupidity that is whatever that is me. I'm just some crazy guy talking to his computer. I'm just some dude who works in a factory, makes enough to be able to pay rent. I play video games. I listen to music. I like to walk on bike trails. When it comes right down to it, though, in the grand scheme of things, and just, people in the world, I am nothing. I have no effect on anyone. There's no reason for anyone to care about my thoughts or feelings or opinions on anything in the world. I am literally nobody. I am nothing. I am no one. Maybe my self-esteem's a bit low and I probably shouldn't feel so worthless about things. But hey, that'll probably get better whenever I at least feel a little better about that. Heck, you know what? Little Caesars has the pretzel pizza back. I'm going to grab that after I finish recording this. I'm going to go order that, get that pizza. I'm going to eat that pizza. And I'm going to go to bed and then wake up and go back to work. And I'll say this. Yes, my work has a few concerns. It's factory. It's manual labor. I'm using a reciprocating saw. I tend to sometimes hit my shit on stuff. And I'm usually pretty sore and wore out from it. And heck, I'm always on concrete wearing steel-toe boots. But I'll say this. It doesn't pay the greatest. But I can at least pay enough to pay for rent, and I can also get that Doom game a week from now. I'm going to get on my PS5. It'll be a lot of fun. I'll enjoy it. I really can't complain. I have enough money to buy food and some video games, and I can drive places sometimes, and, I have the internet. So, there's anime. Heck, I live in an era of anime and air conditioning. What more do I need to be grateful for? Think about that. Jesus blessed me to live in an era with anime anime, fuck, with anime and Asmongold and air conditioning and video games and manga and light novels and Overlord of Einzel Gone and reincarnated as slime with Rimuru Tempest and so many other great animes. And heck, I know there's a lot of animes out there that get canceled for like problematic stuff. What the fuck? Why does anyone care about that shit? Why are you bitching about fucking fictional characters? Enjoy the fucking show. Stop telling me what I can or can't enjoy. Heck, a lot of people want to judge people playing video games or enjoying anime. I enjoy the things I enjoy. I don't need to justify what I enjoy. I also don't need to justify liking cock and balls and being basically, gay. I also don't need to justify going on bike trails. Yes, I know it doesn't accomplish anything, me going on a bike trail. I'm not making money going on a bike trail walking there. I don't care. I just like going on the bike trail. I don't even bring music or anything. I just either talk to myself or I just quietly walk on the bike trail, just enjoying the sounds of nature like we're hearing now with the higurashi, with the cicadas. Okay? I'm just saying I don't need to justify enjoying walking on a bike trail. Now, maybe I need to be careful about walking on the bike trail too much, because I know, like, currently it is like May 7th? May 8th? I don't remember. It's sometime early. I think it's May 7th. Let me check. It is May 7th, 2025, 11:45 a.m. Okay, so it is... yeah, I'm clicking on things. Get the images of all the brave heroes, manga. Okay, yeah, I gotta do it to return to this. But, just saying this. It is May 7th, 11:45 a.m. of 2025. July. It was either late June or some point in July of last year, so like 10 or 11 months ago, or maybe 9 months ago. It's either 9, 10, or 11 months ago. I went walking on the bike trail, and again, like I said, I wasn't listening to music or anything. I didn't have any electronics playing. My phone was in the pocket, but I wasn't listening to anything. I was just lost in thought. I walked way too far. Also, it was a very bright, sunny day, and there was a heat advisory telling people to stay inside, that they should stay inside. There was actually warnings on the news channel saying, don't go outside, it's too fucking hot. It's a heat advisory. It's too warm outside. I went to the bike trail anyway. In the middle of a bright, sunny day with no fucking clouds anywhere. When it's like 100 fucking degrees. I didn't wear any sunblock, even though I'm as pale as a ghost. And I didn't bring any water. And I got lost in thought. Now, don't be wrong, I still enjoyed the walk. I enjoyed walking. I enjoyed the scenery. I enjoyed being out there walking. But I went way too far. Including the trip back, the total distance I covered was 23 miles. I literally almost died a few times from dehydration and heat stroke. I was so badly sunburnt that the back of my neck is still discolored from that sunburn. To this day. It might be that way for life. I was limping for a couple weeks after getting back from that. Did I intend to go that far? No! I just got lost in thought and I just kept walking. Far more than my physical body was able to handle. My mental body was somewhere else, deep in thought on a lot of important issues to me. And I just kept walking.
And then eventually I realized I had walked really, really far. So then I turned around and started heading home. However, the problem with walking really, really far is that you have to then walk that same distance to get back to where your car is. And I was hobbling those last couple miles. And I was very dehydrated. I was having heat stroke. I was on the verge of... And here's the thing. If I passed out in the middle of that fucking bike trail, would anyone ever found me? Would I have died there in the middle of the bike trail? Would I have just been left there? Would I have ever woken up? I don't know. Would I have woken up in the middle of the night feeling terrified of the fact that it's dark and I'm in the middle of the darkness and probably still confused or like where the fuck I am? Probably. That's assuming I would have woke up at all. I might have just like died. It was like a struggle to not pass out. And I was in a lot of physical pain. Like everything was hurting so much. My knees, my back. And like I said, I was exhausted for several days after that. And when it came to walking, I was limping for a couple weeks. Okay? But aside from the fact that maybe I should be a bit cautious about, not wearing sunblock, not bringing water, going out in the middle of 100-degree weather Fahrenheit and a heat advisory with no shade and, going way more than my body can handle. Yes, I should perhaps be a little bit more safe and cautious and careful with my well-being. I will be very careful about that in the future. The furthest I've walked on the bike trail, period, including round trips, is been 6 miles. I'll go distance usually about 2.5 miles and come back. Maybe occasionally I'll go a tiny bit further. But for the most part, I'm very cautious about that now. It's just, I was really lost in thought. But aside from that is this. I like walking on the bike trails. It may sound stupid. And heck, eventually I would like to be able to bring either friends that I'm just platonic friends with, or maybe if I ever do have a romantic partner again, I would like the romantic partner to want to walk on the bike trail with me. Now, granted, I wouldn't want to do anything sexual with my romantic partner on the bike trail, because I feel that'd be inappropriate, because it's public, it's out in the open. It's I'd feel that it's something that to do when you're at home, but I would like to share that with the person and for them to enjoy that the same way, like just sitting on the front porch watching a thunderstorm. Yes, does it accomplish anything watching a thunderstorm? No. It's the same way playing video games. It's something I enjoy. I don't need to justify what makes me happy to other people. I just need to understand what it is that makes me happy and do the thing that makes me happy. As long as I'm not doing it in a way that hurts myself. Like walking for 23 fucking miles in a fucking heat advisory with no sunblock and no water. Obviously, that's not good for me. That could have killed me. I was limping for weeks. I was in a horrible pain. I almost probably died of heat stroke. And I was in physical exhaustion for several days after that. Obviously, I shouldn't do anything that's harmful to myself. But I don't need to justify what makes me happy or what gives my life meaning or makes life worth living. Okay? Does anyone else like to walk on bike trails? Or feel the same way I do about this stuff? Heck, it's the same with these video games or Let's Plays. It doesn't accomplish anything. Heck, this channel, I have never made a cent. I will never make any money from this channel. I will never make a cent. I have never made a cent from this channel. I will never make any money from doing this. I will never be monetized. I'll never have super chats or sponsors or merchandise. It doesn't mean it doesn't have meaning to me. I just like making these videos. I just like doing this. It's like reading this story. Does me reading the story of higurashi have any effect on anything in society? No, it doesn't. It doesn't even really change my own life. It's not like it's gonna, pay my rent or suddenly give me a 6-pack or some shit. But it's something I enjoy doing. I find the story fascinating. I like reading it, and I like making videos. And I like whether it's the videos where I'm rambling like this, or doing karaoke, or reading books, or again, Let's Plays where I'm playing video games like Super Meat Boy, and where like I was like really cussing my ass off on that. Like I was like fuck, but I was having so much fun. And again, that's another thing with video games. People say, "Why are you cussing if you like? Why are you playing video games? You're that pissed out." I'm like, I'm not pissed at the game. It's a nice way to vent feelings or stress. Even if you were living a perfect happy life and you were a billionaire and all that shit, I would still want to play video games and fucking cuss at them. It's just a fun thing. There are really no bad emotions, but it's good to find ways to express them. And the same way, it's fun to play a horror game or a scary video game, and it's fun to play like an FPS game or Grand Theft Auto. It's fun. I don't need to justify, what do I enjoy? I also don't have to justify like being gay pretty much, okay? Or enjoying walking on bike trails. I don't have to justify wanting to go back and play Assassin's Creed 2, even though the game's over a decade old. In my opinion, in the Assassin's Creed like parkour games, I think Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and Assassin's Creed Rogue are the best. And I think they're very fun games that are fun even if you play them nowadays and you've never played them before. They're great video games. Heck, I think the original Crackdown, the original Prototype, and the EDF 2017, I think Mario 1 and Mario 3 and Super Mario World still stand up. But heck, I think the original Mario and Super Mario Bros. 3 still stand up test time to where they're still fun games. But of course, it's still also nostalgia for me. Because Spyro, it's Mario 1, Mario 3, I played with my mom. So it's just, it gives me thoughts about how much I love my mom. I love my mom very much. Plus, Spyro the Dragon had really amazing music, which again, that's something I like in a lot of animes and video games, is I like good music. And especially if, they really set the mood for her. But there's so many games where I really, really enjoy good music. And other than that, Spyro the Dragon is the environments. Now, granted, don't get me wrong, I think it's cool they did the remastered, reignited trilogy, but I still like the original graphics better. And the worlds that exist, heck, whether it be Spyro the Dragon or the Final Fantasy games, the worlds look so beautiful. It's just amazing to imagine being in those worlds, just sort of exploring those worlds. Heck, I think I did a whole playlist called Lucidity, where I made videos where I was in VR chat and I was basically going around places by myself, just enjoying the atmosphere of walking around those various places. It's kind of like a bike trail, except I'm not walking. I'm just sitting there holding a fucking game controller looking at a screen. But isn't that also a cool thing about like games like Bloodborne or Dark Souls? Yes, a lot of those games are really difficult. But think about the wonderful worlds. Yes, it would be shitty to actually live there. Yes. But it's cool to explore those worlds in a safe way. You guys know what I mean, right? For example, Spyro the Dragon. A lot of those places, even in Spyro the Dragon, would be horrible to actually physically be there. But to explore it in a safe way, like imagine if you could actually have a realistic version of like the Bloodborne world, but you could walk around it with your friends, but there's nothing there that can actually physically hurt you, and everything's at a temperature that's comfortable for you. And anytime you want to, you just sit down and maybe like eat snacks and pizza and some Pepsi and maybe a cheeseburger. That it's just like a cool, like basically the VR chat sort of thing. Like you're just going around talking to people. You can explore wonderful, amazing worlds, and everything looks so cool and comfy. Like heck, I remember one time I went into a VR chat world, and granted, I don't really mess with that stuff very often, but I went into it, and I didn't really talk to people. There were other people in that one world, and it's like the first time I ever downloaded it. It was a few days before I think it was actually the day before I had to go to the bladder surgery. I was feeling nervous about it, so I said I'll download VR chat. I went into it. There's like this big skyscraper thing full of multiple floors, and there's the big living rooms things, and the cool things. And there's tons of people, and it's supposed to be a place where people they were like anxious, like be able to talk to each other. And what did I do? It's in a skyscraper at night, overlooking a city that's raining. It's a fake skyscraper, a fake city, fake rain. And instead, and like I said, in real life, I'm just sitting down, but in the game, I'm just standing in front of this full panel windows. Just standing there quietly, looking out at the city, watching this imaginary rain, listening to this imaginary rain. And I think I spent a good hour just standing there, looking out, watching this rain over this city, not saying a single word out loud, not even thinking anything, just staring out there, looking at how beautiful it was. And then people started talking behind me, and I realized, oh, wait, there's other people here. Like, I had literally forgotten that other people existed. And then I'm like, oh, right. But I think I spent like a good hour plus just spaced out, just looking at the rain. And it's not like I was like left my avatar just sitting there and went AFK and, went somewhere else. Like, no, I was just sitting there looking at my screen, watching the imaginary rain, just immersed in it. Then again, I'll tell you this, a lot of video games felt that way. Like, I definitely felt that way. Dot Hack Infection. It's a video game for the PS2 based off the amazing, amazing anime Dot Hack Sign. And I'll tell you this. I remember when the very first time I ever even turned on Dot Hack Infection, I was so immersed into the game that by the time I even thought to check, like, oh, the time, or that, even remember there was an outside world aside from the video game, 7 hours had passed. Like, it was nighttime when I started to play, and it was all of a sudden, it was daytime. And like, I had become so immersed in the story and the worlds and the environments of the video game Dot Hack Infection that I had forgotten that the me that existed in this physical world even existed. Like, I just became completely zoned in, entranced into the world. Yes, I'm making a pun, because the MMO video game world in Dot Hack the stories is literally, the MMO is literally called the world. The MMO is literally called the world. I'm just saying it's a really good game. I strongly suggest it. Though I don't think you can find physical copies of that game anymore. It even came with OVAs of their own unique anime, which was also really good. I added to it. I still say Skaith was the hardest fucking boss. But you guys, you guys know what I mean, right? Anyway, I'm going to resume this visual novel that I was supposed to be reading, and I got sort of distracted, I guess. My bad. I'll try not to do the tangents or anything. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to go off and talk about random stuff like that. It's just I do it. I'm trying not to. I'll try harder. Okay. I suppose I should at least do my intro, and we'll try to resume air quotes normal gameplay of a visual novel. But I'm enjoying it. I don't think or know if anyone else is, especially given this whole fucking diversion that I need a GPS to find my way back. It's like we're a train, and it's like we have 8 different sets of tracks, and we can't stay on any of them. We're like just drifting on them. It's like, how do you solve the draw light problem? Drifting. You just like, we're gonna it's like, how do you solve the trolley problem? Multi-track drifting. Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world.
Well, welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. And I hope for a Mega Man Legends 3, a Brave Fensu Musashi 3, and I want the developers of this game, o7th expansion, to make a brand new visual novel. And I'm looking forward to Yun Yun Rhythm Psychosis Denpa Brain Rot when it comes out in October, which I will be Let's Playing. In his imaginary scenario, he slipped his bonds easily, floating like a butterfly to evade his captors, then stinging like a bee to bring them all down. In the end, it was nothing more than his silly little fantasy. But with his vision obstructed and unable to see anything, it was something that he could get into more than any anime at the moment. In actuality, he was enjoying these little scenarios in his head. For the long period of time he was tied up, his captors hadn't really done anything to him that they would feel sorry for. However, eventually, he began to grow tired of his fantasies and more realistic scenarios began to run through his head. It was then he realized that none of them were a solution. Yes, he wanted to do something for his grandfather, who was being threatened. That he was being held here to inflict pain on his grandfather was the thing that he could least forgive and also the most vexing. And then he noticed, and again, to say this again though, is this. From the grandfather's point of view, I would not want my grandson to really worry about this. I'd appreciate that he cared, but at the end of the day, I would just want him to be safe and to be able to be, to be released unharmed. I would not want him to die or get hurt. I value his safety and well-being above all. Also, my nose is stuffy. Hold on. My apologies. Sorry about that. I'm back now. And then he noticed there was a much simpler way he could save his grandfather without having to beat up his despicable captors. No. What are you thinking? This is stupid. As your grandfather, I dislike this idea even more. Was I not, as a Jedi Force ghost, just telling you that what I care about most is that you're alive and safe? That's what matters to me most. I want you alive and safe and unharmed and healthy and happy. I do not want you to get hurt in any way from any source, whether it's yourself or anyone else or nature or anything. As your grandfather, I want you to stay alive and live a longer life than I did. I want you to live to like double the age I am. I am probably 60 years old since I'm a grandfather, right? And I'm also a minister of stuff. Just saying this. I want you to live to old age. Happy, fulfilled life. Where your life is described as full of days and you are completely fulfilled in everything. You're happy. I also want you to have a fucking harem. I want you to have 20 wives. Like Tenchi Muyo or something. Or Musako Tensei. Okay? I want you to have a happy, fulfilling life. I want you to succeed at stuff. I want you to know that I love you and I'm proud of you. I want you to live to old age. I want you to be alive. I want you to be happy. I want you to be safe. I want you to be healthy. I want what's best for you. And this does not look like it's going in anywhere remotely the direction of what is best for you.
I do not care about the shit with my pride or that other shit. Okay? I don't care about the other stuff or even the bullshit people might talk about me or whatever that, or my own little feelings about other things. About, oh, I feel sad about this thing or that thing. That's fine. That's tolerable. Like, oh no, I miss you and I don't get to see you as much because of my job. That's fine. I can tolerate that. You dying is not. Okay? Let's be clear. What I care about most is that you are alive. I want you to live to that when you eventually die, it's from old age, peacefully in your sleep, when you're like in your fucking 90s, okay? I want you to live so old that you're setting a Guinness World Record for fucking oldest fucking person. I want you to live so long that when people see you at the park, they ask you for life advice because it's so amazing that you've lived for so long and accomplished so much in your life. As your grandfather, I want you to live to old age. I want you to live for a very long time. As your grandfather, I want you to stay alive. I want what's best for you. I want you to stay alive. I want you to be happy. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be safe. Okay? That was to remove himself as a hostage from the hands of these villains. If he was to disappear from here, his captors would have nothing to threaten his grandfather with. The captors had restrained him, but they didn't treat him roughly, and they made sure he was fed well enough. Meaning, at most, he was nothing more than the means for their threat. They weren't looking to bully or kill him out of spite. If he behaved, no ill will would befall him. And as your grandfather, that's what I care about most. I don't want any ill will to befall you. I don't want you to die or get hurt. I don't want them to cut off your fucking ear or cause damage to you or beat you or molest you or burn you or any of that shit. Let alone you fucking die. Okay? I want you to stay alive. I want you to be happy. I want you to be safe. I want you to be healthy. I love you very, very much. I am very proud of you as is. You don't need to do anything to prove yourself, and you don't need to help me with anything. I love you. I am proud of you. I just want what's best for you. I want you to be alive. I want you to be safe. I want you to be happy. I want you to be healthy. I want you in good condition, physically and emotionally. I do not want you to suffer psychological harm. I do not want you to suffer physical harm. And above all, I do not want you to die. Realizing that gave him a strong sense of courage. And carrying his train of thought this far, he let it run its course to its natural conclusion. Right now, at this moment, Toshiki Unagai had decided to escape. His ears had been stuffed with a sponge-like material, acting as makeshift earplugs. However, they didn't actually do much to block out any sound, and he could overhear everything his captors were saying. Realizing that this was to his advantage, even when his captors spoke to him, he acted like he couldn't hear them, due to the earplugs. His captors, thinking that he couldn't hear their conversation, talked about all sorts of things without any reservations. Thanks to that, he was able to obtain various pieces of information. First off, this wasn't Tokyo. It seemed that this was quite a distance away, and on top of that, in the countryside, nestled deep in the mountains. It also seemed that his captors were inconvenienced living out here, so he could deduce that this place was far removed from any sort of town. Finally, whenever they went out to buy food or other supplies, they would always take a car. That fact caused him some dismay, because he knew that the method he learned at school of running around blindly while shouting for help wouldn't work here. He paused his little mental escape scenario there. His ultimate goal was to find somebody who would help him. I was really worried his way of taking himself out of the scenario was to kill himself. And I was very worried about that. And I was, no, but this is also a concern. Because this still could result in serious harm. Because again, grandson, I love you. I want what's best for you. Above all, I don't want you to die. I want you to live. I want you to have a normal childhood and to at least have a good childhood, or at least the best you can. And above all, even if it's not exactly everything I plan, I want you to stay alive. I want you to be happy. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be safe. I want what's best for you. At least as best as can possibly be. Okay? I want you to be well. I don't want you to get hurt in any way. If somebody who fit that description wasn't close by, his chances of escaping successfully grew slim. A desolate, far-off land deep in the mountains. A place where you couldn't even go shopping without using a car. In this situation, escaping would be very difficult. He grew depressed, and after a little while, he returned to his original scenario, imagining becoming a hero like in the manga he read, and beating down his captors became his respite. Or respite. However, as he played those delusions out in his head, his heart, hating to surrender, continued to search for a way to escape. And then, he thought of a way. If the goal was far away, then all he had to do was get closer. His goal, in a nutshell, was to find somebody who would help him. In other words, somebody other than his captors. If he faked being sick, then his captors would have to take him to the hospital, or bring a doctor to him. They would probably be reluctant to do that, but he already knew that the hostage was more important than anything. In the off chance that something happened, like him dying occurred, they wouldn't be able to threaten anybody anymore. Luckily, he had an experience that would help him fake a serious illness. At the end of last year, he was inadvertently involved in a car accident and had to undergo surgery. The scar from that surgery was still clearly visible on his lower torso. He recalled the pain and suffering from that time. The existence of that experience would make a huge impact on the realism of his performance. He was quite confident in his ability to fake an illness. His captors at first took that as a sign he needed to use the washroom. Untying only his arms, they tried to bring him there while he was still blindfolded, but he didn't try to get up. His hands now free only clutched at his abdomen as he writhed in agony. Hey, what's wrong? Does your stomach hurt? He still had his earplugs in, so he had to pretend he didn't hear his captors asking the question. He only was about to nod, so he hurriedly had to stop himself. What's the matter? Yes, the kid's clutching at his stomach. Must be a stomachache or something. His captors looked down on his suffering form for a bit. One of them proposed a course of action, while another laid his doubts that Toshiki might be faking it. What's wrong, boy? Your tummy hurt? His ears are plugged, so he can't hear you. Well, that's a problem. Do we got any medicine that works on stomach pain? Might want to go to the pharmacy to buy some. When it comes to stomach pain, there's a bunch of different meds, isn't there? As long as we don't know the cause, we shouldn't just buy him any old medicine. He's old in his stomach. Maybe he's just constipated. If you buy him some medicine for that, then maybe it'll calm him down. It won't kill him if we're wrong on either. Don't decide something like that on your own. It might be appendicitis or something. My uncle suddenly got it a while ago. That was pretty scary. One of the captors leaned over beside the boy, who was bent over in agony. I feel sorry for the kid. Whoa, his whole body's covered in sweat. Is it your stomach? Does it hurt? Hey, if it hurts, you shouldn't clutch at it so tightly. It'll only make it worse. Realizing that his captors were concerned about his stomach, he inadvertently let his shirt right up, letting the scar from the surgery come into plain view. His vision was still obscured with packing tape, so he couldn't see the reaction to his scar, but his captors were taken aback, and judging from their momentary silence, he had obtained the reaction he was looking for. Hey, this is bad. This scar, it's not that old. Does the boy have a fever? There a thermometer around? No way we have one. But that's a lot of sweat. Yeah, his forehead's feel pretty hot, I think. I've heard that under prolonged stress, old wounds can be aggravated. Then what do we do? Are you saying that medicine won't work? We don't know what surgery this scar was from. But in any case, this is bad. In the worst case, it could be fatal. This is bad. This is really, really bad. Maybe we should have a doctor take a look at it? At this rate, there's a chance that he might suddenly die on us. Toshiki Unagai, with those few words, knew that the situation was progressing exactly as he had envisioned it, and snickering to himself on the inside, pressed his act even further. He didn't even need to see to know that his captors were panicked and were running around like chickens with their heads cut off at this troublesome turn of events. Should we take him to the clinic? Nah, that's no good. Probably better if the doctor came here. Dr. Erie, you mean? Is that okay? Will that be all right? It'd be worse if anything happened to the hostage. Nothing we can do. It's an emergency. One of the captors hurriedly left in the car. Another of the men, completely shaken up at this point, wiped the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. It looked like they were bringing a doctor. As long as the doctor wasn't an accomplice, that doctor was his goal. He was someone he should seek help from. His captors were probably wary of that happening. They would be prepared for it. This would all come down to luck. Some of the sweat emerging from his brow was from that nervousness. At that moment, the packing tape that was covering his eyes and ears were torn off. The burning light that he was seeing for the first time in several days hurt his eyes. After that, the gag that made it hard for him to breathe was also removed. Are you all right, kid? We're bringing a doctor to you right now. Just hold on for a bit. The doctor was coming. The doctor was coming. Now, how was he going to ask for help, and how was he going to get away from his captors? A plethora of thoughts began swirling around his mind. I think you know this already, but don't say anything unnecessary to the doctor. We don't want to hurt you or anything. You understand that, right? Toshiki Unagai. Am I even pronouncing that right? While feigning pain and obedience. His expectations and the enemy's expectations. Whether they doubted he was faking his illness or not, they knew that what his goal was and would try to stop it. His stomach contracted from the stress of this gambit, making it seem like his stomach really was starting. Is he actually going to accidentally tear open the scar and actually cause himself to die? Is he going to, basically from faking the injury and be under so much stress, he's actually going to induce the illness? No, it really was. Yep, we really do need a doctor. Fuck. And I don't know if Dr. Uri is how much he can actually do if I actually did tear up open what was wrong with me. But, yep, our plan worked too well. We are actually seriously fucking hurt. And Dr. Uri is going to have to actually do something or else we're actually going to die. We might actually be dead before he gets here. Your grandfather is not happy with this. The Force Ghost is shaking his head very angrily because you're not going to be alive and I want you to not die. Because as your grandfather, all I care about is your well-being above all other things. Even if I have to make some sacrifices and collateral damage, all I want is for you to be safe and happy and alive and healthy. The Force Ghost is unhappy. Fucking Palpatine and Plagueis didn't help with this. The tragedy of Darth Plagueis. Now I'm imagining AI videos I've seen of Mace Windu criticizing Anakin Skywalker for his doctorate in Darth Plagueis the Wise studies. The dichotomy. His stomach contracted from the stress of this gambit. Fuck. His stomach contracted from the stress of this gambit, making it seem like his stomach really was starting to hurt. No, it really was. But there was no reason to panic. If he failed with his approach to the doctor, there was nothing to lose. If there was something to lose, it was this method of faking illness to get in touch with the doctor. If he could think of other methods from here on out, it wasn't much. But at the present, this was the easiest and most dramatic way he could think of. The more he thought about it, the more it looked like this was his first and last gambit. Eventually, he heard the sound of a car approaching once again. The sound of the car doors being hurriedly opened and shut, the sounds of several footsteps approaching. A young man in a white medical coat. Hi, Dr. Erie. Hi, Coach. As he acknowledged the boy, a suspicious look showed itself on his face. Who's he? He's not one of the kids from the village, is he? The captors didn't respond. From the looks of it, the young doctor had realized that this was an abnormal situation. One of the captors talked threateningly. That's got nothing to do with you, Doc. For a while, the doctor and the captors silently glared at one another. However, unable to stand the sight of the boy continuing to suffer, the doctor, as the captors had hoped, didn't press any further. I'm concerned about this old surgical scar. What kind of operation was it? We don't know. I should really bring him back to the clinic. Doc, we really can't do that. Doc, we really can't really do that. His eyes look like they're a mix of blue and green. The doctor said he wanted to bring the boy back to the clinic, but the captors simply silently shook their heads at the notion. It was a fleeting hope, but it was only natural that the captors would refuse. At that moment, his eyes met with the doctor's. Seeing that the boy's painful state was abnormal, the doctor suspected it was a serious illness. Are you all right? I am a doctor. When was this surgical scar from? Last year? During the winter? From an accident? An accident. I see. This is a problem. He couldn't let the doctors figure out that he was faking it here. He had to somehow figure out a way to keep this going and tell the doctor that he was being confined and needed help. I think that's obvious. I think Dr. Erie is a very smart man. I'm going to touch the affected area, okay? If it hurts, tell me where. Seeing that it was extremely painful, the doctor crossed his arms and began to ponder. Here's the thing. What? That was all caps. Were we faking, or does it legitimately fucking hurt? Are we going to die? I'd rather not die here. Seeing that it was extremely painful, the doctor crossed his arms and began to ponder. He had to somehow get himself to a hospital. Toshiki Inugai faking this illness was the performance of a lifetime. Inugi? Inugaya? How do I pronounce it? Good work, everyone. I know it's hot, but please do your best. Save. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out with this tsundere. Hope everyone out there has all the hugs and head pats you could ever want. And let me know if you guys are also looking forward to playing Doom the Dark Ages. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, bye. And now for the awkward silence, as I'm looking for OBS to push stop recording. 3 hours. I'm sorry, it's such a long... I keep saying I need to make like less than 20-minute videos, and it's just... Yep, 3 hours. Okay, later.